Because, dude, if you're going to record a podcast, you got to be comfy. You have to be.
Right, that's it.
If you don't have
Yeah,
a
well,
drink right now, you need to go get a drink. If you're not wearing like a hoodie that you
don't
can
worry.
see that you're not going to sweat, see,
I
oh,
have a
son of a bitch.
non-sponsored drink, but I have a very much sponsored hoodie.
We're already. Oh, with the plug. Oh, no, you flash that as many. In fact, if you don't flash that at least 10, 15 times in this interview,
Yeah, there
I'll
we
be
go.
disappointed in you. You got to flash that shit.
Sure thing, sure thing. It's the only flash yet in human history where you keep your clothes on.
It's and it's more arousing, possibly. It might be more arousing flashing with it on
Yeah,
than what's underneath
probably.
becomes less impressive afterwards. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Frankly, the best thing I could do is I'm wearing as many clothes as possible.
I can't believe I disparaged the good name of breasts. Breasts are amazing and they fix everything in this world, and I just disparaged them. I feel bad. I'll tell you what, this conversation I already know is gonna go off the rails. And because he knows we're recording, I'm talking to a non-existent audience because welcome to this edition of the Halcyon Show. My name's Lorne Risley, I'm the host. Today, Reeverse joins us. Now, an intro would be befitting of this young man. However, every time I check his feed like I check it today, there's new stuff. There's new stuff. So writing an intro seems redundant because I'd write it and it'd be instantly out of date because we are talking to a nominated Battler of the Year for Premier Battles. We're talking to someone that battled someone on 2 days' notice. We're talking to someone that battled 5 times this year. We're talking to a man who may very well one day become on the pantheon of battlers because he's already racked up an immense career. And best I can tell, you've only just started. So, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Reeverse.
Gosh, thank you very much. I really, you're far too kind. That is certainly the most flattering intro I've ever had.
Dude, I'm
Um,
not even flattering you because literally I try to do my prep and I'm throwing through my feed and oh man, he's done more stuff. And now he's doing more stuff. And it's like I know we were starting off with the silly stuff, but the thing I had to ask you, man, is how did you keep pace this year? Like you were on it from jump and you've not stopped. How have you managed that?
yeah, frankly, I've struggled, as in I'm very much appreciating a little bit of respite now, and you can rest assured that there won't be any new achievements on my feed, at least for a couple months.
Don't believe it. I don't believe it, but
But
sure.
yeah. So to start with, I sort of had a rough idea of when my battles were going to be for the start of the year. Like I knew I was battling Crow maybe 2 months before. I had a good deal of time to prep for it, and the same with Frost, and eventually Georgie. Although that one took a little bit of time to be confirmed. So I didn't feel like I was really rushing and expending loads of energy. I felt like I was ticking over at a good pace for most of the year, and then it was in essentially the last month since the Georgie battle that I then got the offer for the Lazy battle and the Loso battle in close proximity, and I'd planned on finishing for the year after the Georgie thing, and I kind of had a decision: do I do one? Do I do both? Do I do either? And I just figured I might as well try to ride the wave I was on just for this last month, but it has absolutely taken it out of me.
So, okay, take yourself back to because the Georgie Battle is where we met. So, pleasure
Yeah,
meeting you again, by the way. It was lovely. Um,
likewise.
I will say that the performance you gave that day was spirited, energetic, polished, professional. Now, you get done and you're thinking to yourself, right, whew, okay, what a year, great. And then you get those 2 offers. What's the
Mm.
mindset of a man that decides to take not one, but both of them when I know what, again, it's been mentioned a million times on this show and on other shows, other platforms. Battle rap is unique because the reps and the practice and the anticipation of a battle is fucking killer. It's a
Right.
monster of it. So how do you go? Do you know what? No, one doesn't sound like enough. I think I want two. I think I'll take two. Go on, I'll do 2 of those. Like, what goes through your mind when you say yes to that?
So I think to answer that question, because you're absolutely right, the sort of mental gymnastics beforehand really are quite strenuous. And for me personally, that's the most draining part. The performance and all of that's more of a pleasure at the end, you know. It's the build up that I struggle with. So in order to answer your question, it's important to say that I was offered the lazy battle beforehand. So I was offered that shortly after the Georgie battle, a week or two after maybe. Um, and I'm not sure exactly when it got confirmed, but I'd sort of said we'd penciled it in at least to add it to that card. And it had been rolling around in my head. But as I say, I'd sort of thought I was going to be done after the Georgie battle. And I'd kind of figured, right, I've kind of got 6 weeks to just muster up whatever I've got. And I wanted to take a little bit of time to relax. As the date was approaching, I think I found myself maybe a month out or 3 weeks out, panicking a little bit. I had material, but not to the level that I was normally prepped. Um, and then it was one evening that week when called me. I think it was on, or no, it was the morning. I think it was on Friday morning. Called me to ask about battling Loso on the Sunday. Um, and so in that moment, that's when I had the decision where it was like, do I just hang up the phone because that's ridiculous? Or am I like, actually, this is exactly what I need to kick me up the arse kind of thing? And so that's why I took both battles because actually I was too lazy to do one of them. So I ended up doing both, you know?
So you're saying, and I don't want to paraphrase too much, but in essence, what you were saying is that you were just embracing the challenge of it. You were thinking, well, look, why not? Like you just kind of, even though you knew it was going to be an uphill battle in some respects. I mean, I've seen on your feed that one of the things that sort of garnered from the 48-hour battle was you've learned to trust your instincts more. Like you've kind of
Right.
developed an affinity for saying, do you know what? Whereas before I might have gone back and forth on this, or I might have left it a bit to chance. You now have a better appreciation and understanding of what you are or who you are as a performer now.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's exactly right. That's a really good analysis of the comment, actually. Thank you. Yeah.
And what you're also saying is that you're the best battle rapper ever, and that you're going to destroy everybody, and that there's no real
Yeah.
anyone
It's
that they could throw in front of you. I'm just paraphrasing. I'm just taking what you're saying
still in the
completely.
subtext, man. That's it.
I'm just saying, but like I know that the prep for things that you only get one attempt at, it really does. It makes people question themselves in the sense of they. I tell you what happens. They go through this idea in their heads of exactly how they want it to be, and then when they turn up to the event and tiny things start happening, like I can't find, like who was it? God, I won't remember. I won't remember who it was, but one of the battlers at the event I was at last rushed in because they couldn't find the loo, and then proceeded for the next 10 minutes to be bouncing from room to room to try and find where the lavatory was. And I had to think to myself, that must fuck up your prep a little bit, right? Like that takes you out of your, like you don't see high-end athletes running, room to room looking for
Yeah.
John. You know what I mean? It just doesn't happen. Like they usually have people kind of that guideline them. Whereas in this context, I guess what I'm asking ultimately is, with that in mind then, and with the fact that you've done five battles this year, right, in total?
I think so. Yeah.
And you've obviously had you're not just a battler. You've had your own personal aspirations, personal ambitions. You've had the year that you've had. You've lived in the UK in the year of our Lord 2023, one of the most unstressful times in human history. I guess
Yes.
what I'm asking is like, is it a net positive that you've been this year then, or is it something that you would? Well, I guess what I'm saying there is would you feel confident replicating the year that you've had? In retrospect, would you have taken on the year now, knowing what you know now, or would you have maybe been more calculated and maybe more selective, as some other battlers seem to be?
Um, I'd start by saying that I'm very happy with my lot this year. Just purely from a battle perspective, I'm happy with the work I put out. I felt that until possibly the last battle with Lazy, the first four battles that I did this year, each were a marked improvement from the previous one against, I felt, more challenging opponents. Um, and the Lazy battle, I gained an awful lot of experience. I'm slightly less happy with it just because I know I could have been more prepared, but frankly, as I say, it was sort of the end of a long year, and like you say, personal lives do exist on the outside of all of this. That yeah, very much affect your headspace in the mental gymnastics before a battle. But so I'm happy with what I achieved this year. Would I have taken it on, as in if you went back and asked, say, December 2022 me? I don't think I would have been able to take the battles that I did this year or achieve them.
So in many
So
ways, what you're saying is you've exceeded your own expectations of yourself. Like in December 2022, if you'd have said this is the year you're about to have, you'd have gone, no, no, I'm not.
right,
No, I'm not. And
well,
but you've done it. You've accomplished it, despite what you would have estimated of yourself.
yeah, to let you in a little bit of a secret, my goal for the end of the year was by hook or by crook to have battled Georgie, because I kind of thought, just when I sort of came into battle rep, in the deep end of it, the first event I went to, or the first battle I saw live, was my tryout. You know, I was the first battle, so I really didn't. I don't have as much of a build up or a background knowledge as a lot of other people did before stepping into the pit. When I was coming into it, he was the person who was popping off, and I think rightfully so. He's a really, really great battler, and I can see exactly why out of the newer lot he's probably cemented himself so far above the others. And anyway, because I saw him as that, as holding that role, I kind of felt, right, if I do want to make an impact as a newcomer, that's the head to take off kind of thing. And so that's why I say I was happy to call it a day after the Georgie battle in October. And then I got the other phone calls, and that's when I sort of decided, all right, why don't we in for a penny, in for a pound, should we say?
And I have to assume that I'd be remiss if I didn't point to someone like a Conor McGregor in the situation when he just kept coming. There was a 2-year period where you couldn't get him off of a UFC card, and he would fight anybody, right? And his stock rose commensurately. How much do you think your stock has risen this year from where you started? And again, the regard that you were held in advance, right? Because you've been heralded for a little while, but like from then to now, like, because you mentioned Georgie, and Georgie, I would say, of the current crop of battlers in terms of people that historically might be less aware of the new crop, right? He's had the rub from a few guys now, like a Tony D, for instance, I'm thinking of specifically, where, you know, he's had that opportunity to be put in positions to get real exposure to fans who are now going to want to buy tickets to see him, right?
Right.
Do you feel like you're now ready for that level of exposure? Like they could put you up against a real legend, someone that people are buying tickets to see this guy, and you're now tasked with going, he was great, but now you got to watch me. Now you need to check me out, and you need to carry me forwards when you think about buying a ticket to an event and you see my name on a card.
If you're asking me if I think I could take on Tony D as my next opponent and dethrone him, then the answer's no. But pardon me, I do think there is there are some, you might say, not people of Tony D stature, but certainly bigger names who I'd fancy myself against. I wouldn't necessarily want to name names. I know yours, as an interviewer, you're going to try to draw them out of me.
Oh no, I've never gone on social media or on my platforms and asked anyone to name names at all. It would be unprofessional of me. But no, I totally see what you're saying in terms of, because it might not happen, because the other person might not be game, or because it might not, stylistically, right? You might want a battle, but you go, actually, in terms of a fan experience, it doesn't make sense, or contextually. But I guess what I'm asking is, like, you're a battler, right? And you want to be as high on the card as you can possibly manage without making yourself look like a div by turning up and choking all 3 rounds. At the same time, though, you're trying to balance not only retaining but building a name in a genre that I would argue is, at this point in time, it's resurging. It's coming back from what it once had, and at a period of time where it was at a low point. You're part of this new generation that's going to be put in positions at certain points where you're going to probably be thinking to myself, I can't believe I'm stood across the way from this guy. This is like young me is fucking marking out right now. But at the same time, you've got to be mindful of your legacy. I guess what I'm saying is after the year that you've had and your career up to this point, considering how highly regarded you are, how ready do you feel about the prospect of, I mean, again, in 2024, maybe co-headlining or headlining a card or being put against someone where they go, listen, we know it's short notice, but this guy is over and we really need to make this happen. We're kind of riding the event on this and we need you to step up. How comfortable are you being put in a position like that, given that, again, in relative terms, you're still learning your car, you're still learning your craft, brother?
Yeah. I certainly don't think I'm at that level yet where I could be a consistent main eventer in the sense of actually selling a card. I think that there's more that could be done in terms of building a brand. I, for one, am pretty awful at trying to tap into a social media following and that sort of thing. And that's something that I'm hoping to focus on more next year, although I said that this year as well. Anyway, I like to, I want to show the signs that I'm willing to be that person. For example, you say the person who can save a card, like when gave me that call to battle Loso, I didn't want to be the person who turned down that opportunity. You know, as I say, that was very much a fuck it, I'll do it kind of thing. And it was very much that with Lazy as well, where it's like I knew going into that I wouldn't be on my A game just because I had stuff going on and I had so many other. Well, I'd had 2 battles in the previous 6 weeks or whatever. But just the opportunity to perform on that card, firstly for myself, was invaluable in terms of that experience, but also to show Premier that I'm willing to operate on these sorts of events. And hopefully, as I say, although it's not my personal favorite battle, I did enough to possibly open up the next card with a little bit more wherewithal and a little bit more screwed on and make a little bit more of a splash. So I like the idea of facing these guys that you speak about, but I'm going to be realistic as well. I'm a little way off it, and I think it's hard to. I'm going to need to find a balance between contending with the big boys and continuing to stave off my own generation as well. Maybe I battle one older guy, one newer guy, one older guy, one newer guy, however I do it. But that's more the position I'm in at the minute, rather than putting myself as a headliner, you know?
That's a neat little segue. Battle rappers and their segues, honestly, they should make a career out of it because they're too good at it. Because here's my question for you, and this is pertinent because of the fact that you are heralded somewhat as a newcomer, albeit you've been around for a little while now. Your opinions on battle rap as a genre. Talk to me about your affinity for it. What is it about battle rap that drew you? What is it about battle rap that continues to retain you? And what do you think is something that's particularly endearing about battle rap to you as a battler? But also, I've seen you at an event, I've seen you engrossed in battles, and I've seen you, interact on the old socials with people when you're giving props and you're giving people flowers. You're a fan as well. Talk to me about battle rap for you. What is it to you? What are those quintessential elements to you?
Yeah, for me, right, the primary sort of attraction for me, shall we say, the reason it first caught my eye or drew my interest was I've always loved language and I've always loved writing. I always thought I'd end up writing in some regard. Writing, I've tried. I mean, I'll write anything, to be honest. The battle rap seems to be the thing that I'm best at writing so far. It's going better than the poetry stuff I might have tried before, or little short stories I got on the side or whatever. But I've always loved writing, and I've always loved the language as well on a deeper level, more sort of mechanically. I'm into etymology, phonetics, foreign languages, and to me, battle rap is sort of the highest level, most concentrated, pure, diluted, distilled essence of language is fucking cool. And that's why I like it, because it combines a musical element, it combines an academic, it almost a sort of intellectual argument side to it as well, where obviously battle rap is intelligent, the wordplay, all of that, but there's intellectual academic property there in terms of it's a debate, it's an argument back and forth. There are points being contested. And the ability to do that interwoven with breath control and advanced syllable patterns or whatever, I could talk for hours. But basically, that's why I liked it in the first place, to answer the first part of your question. Now, what's kept me in it is it may sound like a corny answer, but kind of the people. I really, from the outside, probably understandably, as somebody who's only sort of come to your first event fairly recently, I understand.
Yeah, February I went to the Plug 3. Not a bad first event, mind you, but you know, that was I've been into battle rap since 2015-ish, but yeah, that was my first event this year.
Well, probably then you can empathize with thinking or assuming at least that it would be somewhat of a hostile community, and so when I came into battle rap, like as I say, I'd battled before or I'd been to an event really, or I didn't really know what to expect, and frankly, I've just had a great time. I've met loads of really cool writers who continue to inspire me. I've met loads of people like yourself who are willing to give attention to what we do and you know, help try to generate us platforms and this kind of symbiosis that we have going on. I've just had a great time of it basically, and that's why I've carried on doing it. So I got into it for the language and stayed for, you know, the memories. Oh, but you know, that's where we are.
He's won some friends with the people that like the idea that everyone's ultimately a good person. No, you're all bastards, and you know why. No, what I wanted to say was, as far as because you're part of a newer generation, and battle rap is different now because it's consumed in a different way, it's disseminated in a different way, but you're also competing with a lot more. Like again, when battle rap blew up when I was a bit younger, like viral videos were easy to distinguish that they were viral, as opposed to just someone claiming they were viral, having 10 hits and just going nuts. And so you were competing at the time with basically nothing. Like I'd argue that there was nothing genre-esque like battle rap, and at the time, because it was more the internet was still finding how to disseminate things and how to consume content. Now, not only is battle rap attempting to compete with fucking every streaming platform in the world, YouTube, and everything else garnering for attention, right? It's trying to do it off of the back of also trying to re-establish its presence within the UK specifically. Now, what I find interesting about that is kind of what you're saying. I fell in love with battle rap because if you don't pay attention, you really don't get out of it what's there. You have to pay attention to actually go, actually, no, it's almost like a connoisseur's entertainment. But people get put off the second someone goes, it's a bit aggressive, and you go, it's performative. So my question to this is, when did you first click the performative aspect of it all? And when, more importantly, did you click that performative element could be imbued with your love of language to create what is now Reeverse? Like, you've kind of imbued the two, and you're now very phonetic and you're very articulate, but there are some lines in some of your performances that are as simple get, and they just they crack people. They crack people right in the moment. So how does that all come together, or how did it all come together, I guess?
So certainly, I mean, I'm firstly, I'm not the finished article now, but I certainly wasn't the finished article when I tried out, and I don't think anything really clicked. Probably. So my first battle against Formy, as I say, I'd never been to an event before. I'd kind of written some rounds, having seen a few battles online. I didn't really know what I'd gotten myself into. Anyway, it went okay. People seemed to like it. I didn't think much of it. And then Rowan messaged me again shortly after and asked if I wanted to do it again. And so I thought, sure thing. And it went less well against Carlton Shanks. Now, I was still, it was my second battle. It was fine. I got all my material out clean or whatever, but I just essentially noticed that my material didn't go down as well as Carlton's did. And I
necessarily, but I will say that you got a go on, say it again. Like that's a good compliment in a battle to go, oh, come on, let him no, say it again, mate. Say it again. Like that's a good
right. And
right?
was that on with the face cream line, right? Because
Again,
it's
one of
funny you
those
mentioned
simple, quintessential lines that everyone just goes, wait, what? Like it was great. That was a really good line.
well, thank you. And so this is sort of, you asked when it sort of clicked or when it came together. It was sort of that line, right? So I wrote that line, or in fact, I don't think I ever did write that line. I thought of that line about 15, 20 minutes before, because I'd known that my next line was something about you get discounts as an OAP since you're an over 18 or whatever. So I knew I had to rhyme with that. But I didn't know what my first bar was going to be. And anyway, so I'd sort of left it there for a bit of fun, thinking, whatever, I just need to think of one line. And I said it, and it went down. Obviously, it was my biggest moment of the battle. And I immediately realized that I'd kind of fundamentally misunderstood the task that I'd taken on as a battler. Where, as I say, I came into this mostly from an idea of loving the language side of it. And frankly, while the standard of what I do now was far higher than then, at the time, that was my bloody magnum opus in terms of I was just trying to be as smart as I possibly could and fit all the syllables and punch lines and whatever. And frankly, I realized, something that was a little bit more characterful that I just thought of a few moments before attracted people a lot more. And so it was after that Carlton battle, I sort of had a bit of a decision. I was like, right, do I want to do this again? Firstly, and I sort of decided, yeah, I'm going to give it a go, bearing that in mind, and if it goes well, then whatever. But I was happy to sort of leave it there. And so then you ask sort of where this Reeverse thing came from. I think that really informed how I went into my Canal battle, which in a way, certainly for a while, served as a blueprint for a lot of my battles in terms of I knew that Canal was going to call me, use the same sort of posh Tory angle, whatever. And I'd sort of, if I'd taken that battle, say 6 months earlier, then I would have just written as many rhymes as I possibly could about, whatever he was. But I just sort of realized actually this is performance and it works a lot. Sorry, I mentioned the upstairs neighbor. I don't know if you heard that.
Get your broomstick, hit the roof, tell him that we're recording an interview with one of the most popular and potentially headliningest battle rappers of the last 10 years, and you should pipe down.
Right. Well, in fairness, I think they'll probably
talk to him.
Yeah, that's it. They
I'm
would tell me to hurry up
34
with
and I'm
the
yelling talk to him at a young man on a podcast. Live my life, children. Anyways, sorry, you were saying.
So basically, I realized that the goal was to entertain people rather than just to be as clever as possible. And so then I realized that I can try to blend the two against Canal. And so I said, right, I'll write all the clever, funny, homeless jokes that I can, but why don't I just make them about him being homeless and embrace the bloody Tory thing and make the whole concept of the battle that I'm not going to give him any change or whatever. And that at the time was my best battle and I think holds up pretty well. So since then, basically, that's when I kind of understood it. And since then, my goal has been just, right, how can I take entertaining, like how can I try to merge getting all the points across that I want while still being true to me and making sure that it's an active, present, enjoyable thing for everyone in the room.
I'm so glad that you've said that. I'm so glad that you, again, this might sound crazy to people, but, or maybe you don't clock this if you're watching this. Battle rap isn't, calling it a sport is somewhat disingenuous to not only the fans, but also to the battlers, because it puts this idea that wins and losses is the be all end all, which I understand in if you want to be a wrestling theologist on this, I guess in the eyes of the fans, whoever takes the W is therefore superior. I would argue that the best battler is the one that makes you leave the event or watch the video and go, do you know what, that was good. I wonder if he's done anything else. And you go, I'm now interested in seeing this again. That's entertainment. That's closer to the theater. That's closer to stand-up comedy. That's much closer to a live stage performance, right? And you guys, and I think this is true of the new crop, because the new crop seems to have embraced this idea that it's about entertainment and it's about imbuing the technicality of battle rap with the theatricality of some of the most prominent and best battlers when it comes to who do people Google, who do people follow. And you go, right, well, okay, maybe he wasn't the most technical, but my God, did people go nuts when they saw this guy? So I guess what I want to ask as a result of that is, how much emphasis, once you had this crystallizing moment, did you put on refining what would become, maybe not the character, but certainly Reeverse as a performer rather than just yourself doing battle rap, if that makes sense?
Yeah. 99% of it went onto that, to be honest. Not to say I haven't improved, say, my writing. I think I've tried to. I'd never really rapped before battle rap, to be honest, or barely had. So like I've been trying to improve as a rapper in general, and that sort of thing. But I think the main thing for me that I focused on for battle rap was that sort of character side of it. And it's interesting you sort of mentioned that the new crop are in a position of trying to imbue exactly that sort of more gimmicky, you might call it, side of
maybe. But I would say to liken it to sport, just to let you have it back in a second. Footballers these days are just as technically. I don't want to hear anyone saying Andy Cole was the greatest striker ever and technically he's superior to anyone. No. There's peaks and troughs of technicality everywhere. But not only are they technically superior, they're physically superior these days. They would run rings around the athletes of the 90s and the 80s, right? I make that to you guys because you guys have access to everything that's transpired. You of course, if you took Reeverse now and put him in 2013, he'd run rings around everyone. That's just not a great.
I don't know about that. I tell you what, I think it's a really good analogy with the football thing, right? And I'll take it one step further. I think you're right that probably the general technical standard of battle rappers these days is higher than it would have been 10, 15 years ago. The average battle rapper today is a far superior battle rapper to the average battle rapper 10, 15 years ago, if there was such a thing. That being said, I think that 10, 15 years ago, battle rap exuded a hell of a lot more of this character and personality that we're talking about. In the same way that I think that, I mean, so York was before my time, right? But I grew up watching Torres and Rooney were the sort of the top strikers when I was a kid, right? Torres for that Liverpool season, or Suarez. Now, Haaland has smashed their records, right?
Indeed, yeah.
But wasn't it way more fun watching Suarez? Bro, he was megging people. He was banging it from 40 yards. He had volleys. You know what I mean? I kind of think that, so that's why I'm trying to focus on doing what in that analogy, the more character side of it, because I think it's kind of a bit of what's missing. You're right, the technical standard's higher. We got some good rappers, but I don't know if we can move tickets in the same way, because I don't know if people buy into us, all of us, in the same way.
I tell you what, I'll do something I've never done before. I'm going to accept most of the point. I would accept most of the point. What I will disregard is, I think the characters landed previously because people really bought into who they were selling. Whereas now I don't underestimate the work that some of the guys are putting in order to get over with the audience or to present a certain character or flavor to the audience. I will say, though, I don't buy some of them. And it doesn't matter how hard they work, because it's not coming... Like you mentioned in one of your battles there, that part of it was you understood that there was an aspect of it that was going to be weaponized against you anyway. So instead of leaning up against it, You lent into it. You embraced it and weaponized it for yourself, and not only showed an air of humility and intelligence, but you maintained the entertainment. And do you know what? This will be good for the audience. They'll lap this up. So I would say you've walked that line better than some of your contemporaries in that sense, because I don't, for 1 second, when I'm watching you performing, think this guy's acting, this guy's performing for a non-existent perception of himself. He's elaborating on what he is. He's expanding on what he is for the sake of the performance.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that because I think that's a really good analysis of it. I wanted to stress when I say, but I have put a lot of effort into the character side of it. That's not to say that it's inauthentic. Moreover, it's an exaggeration of a certain aspect of my character, if you know what I mean. I'm certainly not as posh as I act in battles. Against Lazy, I said that I own a vineyard. I don't own a vineyard, but I'm well aware that I'm posher than pretty much all of my opponents, and I'm posher than most of the people in the room, and that's what most people might think of me. So, like you say, there's a way to disarm the way that angle's weaponized against me.
Like you say, making it a debate and saying, right, I don't even disagree with my opponent's point, but my opponent has misunderstood his own point. Let me explain it. And you take it and you flip it, and suddenly the opponent who had something has gone, I wish I hadn't brought this. I don't know if picking it up was a good idea,
Yeah, that's it. And that's sort of why, I mean, it's a little bit of the old, how every Scooby-Doo episode ends, and I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you and you meddling kids, right? That's like, that's the trope for that kind of, that kind of show. The trope for battle rap is the, I know everything he's got to say against me. I am white. I am, you know what I mean? So I'm aware as well, taking this battle against Lazy, where my first round was largely just an exaggeration of that whole angle, because I thought, right, they've got pretty much the two poshest guys in the league. I might as well rap about vineyards. What else am I going to do? And now I know that some people might, like you say, find that a little bit corny, but for me, it just makes it so much more accessible for people. And I'm well aware that I'm going to take whatever flack comes from that, regardless of whether I rap about the vineyard. I'm going to be cool posh, so I might as well get the laugh for the vineyard,
And I totally take your point on that. Again, it's battle rap's weird in the sense that you have to be cognizant of the moment, because you're trying to win the moment, but everything you say is held against you in a court of public opinion for the next battle and the battle after. So it's that constant. This is why I adore battle rap as a genre, because you will never find a genre of performer that is so ubiquitously concerned with the past, present, and future, not only of themselves, but of the context that they find themselves in. And when you consider all of that pressure is then put into, you get one chance. You only get to perform this once. You don't get to take it on the road and workshop it to see what bits work and what don't. If you cock up once, there's no retake. Best of luck. Like, how do you contend with it? Well, even if you feel the pressure, if you don't, fair enough, but how do you contend with that kind of demand for a performance? Like the idea that it has to be somewhat original, it has to be somewhat unique, it has to be somewhat performative yet cutting, it has to be funny yet serious, all of these things. How do you contend with that on the day and before and after, like the come down and the come up?
Well, yeah, I mean, on the day, most of those sort of considerations are long since decided, in that all the things you're saying about trying to make it original, incisive, these are things that obviously that happens in the prep, and almost by the time, more often than not, by the time I say my rounds, I'm pretty much numb to them, in that I've forgotten what bits were meant to be good and what was funny and what the point was in the first place, because I've said them as many times. But
is it seriously that? But like, it's seriously like to the point where you're just, I just want to say it. I'm just so done with these fucking Just let me say them now. Is it really
Well,
that much?
Well, recently I haven't had that. Obviously, recently I've been battling more on 48 hours prep. So I'd probably like to have known my rounds, better. But for my first few battles, that's how it was at least. Now that I'm more comfortable, I'd take something on shorter notice, as I say. But yeah, to start with, it was really drilling it in, just because that's everybody's sort of worst a battle rap show really is, worst nightmare situation just in life, to be honest. It is a slightly psychotic hobby that you're going to theoretically be standing there in front of, well, say in the case of if it happened against Lazy, 500 people possibly, whilst another man has made it his express purpose for the last few weeks of his life to belittle me and humiliate me in every way possible, and all of it's being recorded for posterity. And the better that I do, the more people are going to watch said recording. It is a psychotic thing. So all of those considerations happen long beforehand, and all of this anxiety gets channeled into that originality long beforehand. And so by the day of the event, as I say, it's more just about a clinical job.
I've never heard psychotic is beautiful the way you've described that, because like it is almost a psychotic level of dedication to something that in any other genre would probably say, hey, why can't we do this more than once? Let's just we can tour it, it's not a problem. Or most people would go, well, we're filming it, so if he fucks up, okay, just take it back and try again.
Yeah.
Battle rap is so pure in that sense, in the sense that they just go, well, no, it's we're doing this live, pal. It's raw. Get on, sink or swim, bitch. So I guess like the very easy segue to make from that is, okay, with that all that in mind, you've got to cultivate a performance that you know is going to satiate all of those needs and wants from an audience. Where do you find your inspiration from? How do you spark the genesis of an idea or a concept? How do you go about trying to find ideas and whittle them down and focus them and channel them properly?
Dude, if I knew, I'd have done 1,000 of these things by now. I'd be tapping at that vein all day. But frankly, things just sort of come to me. Sometimes it'll be with something. It might be that, I notice a bit of wordplay. I think there's something I can do with that. I make a note of it. And then maybe it'll reoccur to me if I'm saying something similar against an opponent, and I'll say, oh yeah, I could use that. It's important to say, as I say, I've always wanted to be a writer, and I do have just a backlog of a few thousand just little turns of phrases or whatever that I've written over the past 5 or 6 years that I can draw from. But obviously not all necessarily suitable for battle rap. But I draw as much inspiration from sort of my own catalogue as anything else, if that makes sense. That might sound obviously a bit big-headed, but what I mean is, because like you say, we do this once, you get one performance, you don't tour anything, there's no bloopers, there's no behind the scenes. For every battle, I might have 10 minutes of unused material written, say, and then that becomes a cyclical source of inspiration like that. I think aside from that, a lot of things that are just funny that I see in my life, I write down. Say, look, I was on Xbox Live the other day, and some dude said over mic that I can tell from how you talk you've got 3 front teeth, and it's one of the funniest things I've ever heard. And I'm just like, yeah, absolutely, I'm gonna write that and probably say something similar to that in a battle now. Shit, I shouldn't have said this on the podcast. Now I can't use that line. But that sort of thing.
Through the power of editing, I will bleep out the sentence so that you won't hear how funny it was, and only me and Reeverse will know what it was. Sucks.
There we go.
Look forward to it in an upcoming battle that you can buy tickets for right here at premierbattles.com. I'm not going to do the graphic or anything like that. It's too much hard work. I got
sorry, it's the thought that counts.
Sorry?
I said it's the thought that counts. Sorry, what did you say?
The thought that counts. But no, like, I take the point, by the way, that inspiration is. I oftentimes, as a little behind the scenes for anyone watching the podcast up till this point, I like having an in with my guests. I don't like just sitting down with someone and just sort of, so who are you and how did you get here? it's nice having like okay, this is why I want to talk to you. But it's weird in the sense that sometimes those moments come at weird moments. And I'll tell you where it came from with this young man. It was talking to him before his life, before, like, we were just standing in a corner talking with LS Dean, and we were just nattering away, and LS Dean goes away because he's a social just shark just swimming through the room or what have you. And poor Reeverse here was I had him and I'd zoned in on him and I was talking, and I realized, you know what, this guy's really easy to talk to, but every time I shut my mouth and he's talking, I'm just enjoying listening. And that's incredibly rare to find in a younger person. I want you to know this, because most younger people tend to want to just impress you. They want to just sort of one-up you. You were offering tidbits, pieces of information, little anecdotes, little just quirks, jokes, quips, right? And what I wanted to ask is, in terms of that development, like as a performer, obviously you said that you're not polished, and I'll bow to your superior wisdom on that one. I think you're pretty goddamn polished as it is. But as a person going into battle rap, like the solidity of the person going in, how would you say that that's informed the persona you are in the ring? Is it like you just are a generally quite confident, assured person outside of battle rap that's kind of helped you, or is that something that you're kind of realizing in real time, as it were, now that you're getting more and more confident within battle rap as a means of extending that?
A little bit of both. I'd certainly say
it's a bit symbiotic in that sense.
Yeah, in that, I think I probably have gained confidence as a person since battle rap. Not necessarily just, and not as a result of any recognition I've received even, but more so just because, frankly, it's a bit of a social ringer, battle rap as well. On the day when you battle, you know, you talk to, if you do well, you probably talk to 100 people. And to be honest, I'm not the most sociable guy. And so it's something that I've sort of really enjoyed about battle rap is it's helped me, what would I say? Yeah, just sort of find it more. I found a community where my social battery doesn't seem to die out quite so much. Although it does help that as I say, I'm not a sociable person. So the reason I can offer quips and jokes and things like that on a day of a battle is because I spend 3 months in my room with a hoodie up like this beforehand, just charging up, collecting words.
Is that a choice though? Or is that a preference? Like, I mean, I tend to be quite a bit of a hermit, but that's only because, and I mean this with all the love in the world, people, you humans, you baffle me. And just having time away from you all gives me the recharge that I need to not become a supervillain and rule over you as a dictator. But like for you, is it more just a case that you find, like, some people are just naturally creative by themselves, or some people, they don't have much of a social battery, as it were? Is it more of a case that you're one or the other, or do you have your own reasons for being that way?
Yeah, again, I think it's a bit of a combination of the two. So my hobbies, for example, battle rap, are things that if I'm prepping for a battle, you know, I'm doing that alone. I'm in my room, I'm writing, I'm rehearsing, whatever. I'm not talking to someone, basically. And I also have a fairly limited social battery anyway, although it's something that I'm working on.
If you figure out how to extend that battery life, you need to DM me immediately, because again, y'all humans, you're tiring. But if you can figure that out, you're gonna tell me, man.
Yeah, well, dude, likewise, honestly, we'll get a little communication going on there, because I do need answers, honestly. That's why as I say, I battle, and I get all my socializing done probably on 5 days of the year when I choose to battle, and the rest of it I lock myself away. But no, yeah, so I'm not an antisocial person, but just my lifestyle, I spend a lot of time alone, and then I suppose because of that, I might be a little bit more excitable and slightly more charismatic on a battle rap day than I might be if, say, I was a salesperson who every day was forcing a smile. At that point, the conversation then would feel a bit transactional, whereas I actually really enjoy the company on those days just because of my lifestyle. I'm fairly solitary.
Do you prefer being in? So again, Paul Heyman is the one I think about when I think about this statement, in that he is terrified of being in a crowd, but he adores being on a stage. And the idea being that, wait, if you're in a crowd, you're around a bunch of people, but you're not being thought of. You're kind of in the background. I'm like, I agree with Paul Heyman so much in that sense. I can't stand. I break out in a sweat if you put me in a crowd. But if Premier Battles that day when I met you had said, "Oh, by the way, Lorne's here, everyone, come up here. You announce the battlers," I'd be like, right, all right, let's go do it. Because suddenly there's a purpose almost to being there, and that purpose is now what I can direct my energy to, as opposed to being in a social situation where you're kind of not you got Bizzo walking past me, ignoring me every 5 minutes. You got you guys over there. Bizzo, you were big leaguing me. I won't hear of it. And you got everyone over here, and you got a person you recognise. That it's taxing. It's hard work, you know. And in a battle rap sense, you are 100% right, because it is a oddly social affair. Like, you think it's a bit like somber and solemn, and everyone's sort of whispering, but it's not. It's, hey, how you doing, big man? Bring it in. Oh, it's good to see you. Blah blah blah. And you're like, I'm sorry, do I know you? Like, this is. I do know you. Oh right, no, I do know you. Like, it's weird, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And so to tie that back to your original question, which was about sort of how do I incorporate my personality into battles, I think that that's a big side of it. When I came into it, as I say, I was a complete outsider to the community. And I think, you know, it's become something that people have mentioned to me, that I don't smile or I don't react throughout my opponent's lines and that sort of thing. Because frankly, I was just sort of looking around trying to assess things. It wasn't a conscious choice. I just really didn't know where I was to begin with. And so I'm just sort of looking around. And now that I'm a bit more comfortable, now that like you say, it's, yeah, you're right, man, I haven't seen you, whatever. I feel like I can be myself a bit more, and I think my battles this year, as well as improving quality each time, I think I've been a little bit more revealing about myself each time. And I don't know where or how that will stop or how that will develop, but I've enjoyed it. It's been quite cathartic, and I think it's served me well, being more authentic with myself and with the audience. Because like you say, a lot of battlers aren't believable, especially when, like, it being such a social affair, you see them 5 minutes earlier and they're a totally different person when you're asking them how they feel for the battle, right? So I think just learning to be a bit more comfortable, enjoying these events, made me a bit more comfortable in my own skin at these events, made me a bit better as a battler, made me enjoy these events a bit more. It's sort of more around like that at the minute.
And yeah, I won't give an example of someone who I don't believe in, but I will give an example of someone who, in tandem with you, someone that you probably know reasonably well by this point, Bizzo in real life, people, is exactly the Bizzo Bond you see on stage. It's eerie how in real, I'll message him backwards and forwards, and the only time you can get him to flap is by asking him if he's had a cup of coffee that day. That's the only time I've had him go, why do you get, I don't like coffee. Why do you keep asking me if I like coffee? And you go, just have one. If you have a coffee, I'll have a prime. I don't want you to have a prime, and I don't want to have a, that's the only time I've seen him flap, right? But the point I'm making is, he's not putting on a facade for the sake of some weird self-perception with an audience, which that must be a trip, because again, in battle rap, there is that audience perception, battler's perception, your own perception you're trying to contend with, and then you're trying to amalgamate that into something that you can then sell as a performance, right? So I guess what I want to ask as a result of all of that is, how close is Reeverse to who you, I mean, is there a separation, or are you still very much, I mean, put it this way, are you going to slap me across the face at the next event and say, down peasant, and then afterwards go, just kayfabe, brother? Like, or are you just going to be just you? Like, is there, or, okay, better question, is there a temptation to over embellish? Is there a temptation to kind of live vicariously through the performance? I would imagine there is. When you've got 50, 60, 100, 500 people all just looking at you, and you can sell them whatever you like. You know, I have the world's biggest dick. Okay,
yeah,
well, hear him out.
I do see what you're saying in terms of, like, you know, I'm the dude. You got to listen to what I'm saying. I can say whatever the hell I want right now, kind of thing. Yeah, I think certainly you want to push whatever it is you're trying to get people to buy into to the nth degree. But again, it comes down to believability. You can very, very much overdo it. So it's a tough line to toe, I suppose. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a mental blank.
I think what he's
it was a
struggling
good question. I'm afraid that
doesn't want to admit he's going to start just raw backhanding people at events in years to come. That was the easiest thing for him to say. No, of course I'm not going to do that. And I don't detect he's going to refute that claim anytime soon. So now I'm worried. Are you going to start slapping people at events? Stop thinking about it. Just say no.
Look, man, it's for me to know and you to find out, frankly. Why on earth would I even entertain this question? You're wasting my time here, to be honest, man.
There's the cynical, backstabbing bastard heel turn we've been waiting for.
Are you trying to spawn a heel turn this interview? Is that what?
Do you know what? I've been dying for a battle rap heel turn for years at this point. I want to see someone just in the middle of events snake someone in a 2-on-2, preferably. That would be great, and it just be three chair shots, all the rest. And Shotty would be down. Don't tell me Shotty wouldn't be down for that shit.
I tell you what, I do feel a little bit of an outsider to the community just because of how recently I entered it. And I'm aware that some of my views might be a little radical, but I do think that there's a real place where battle rap is going to transition to next. I don't know exactly where it is, but somewhere a little bit more in a kind of reality TV, scripted, slightly kind of vibe, with that sort of thing. I've kind of used an analogy in the past, right? I'm kind of taking the conversation in a slightly different direction.
Take it wherever the fuck you want to take it, my friend. You go, you run.
So if you look at, say, again, this is all way before my time, but stuff like the WRCs, whatever, early battle rap, a cappella, freestyle, back-to-back kind of thing, there was very much a format, like 1 minute strict cut-off time, blah, 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 strict rules, all freestyle. And then we have a transition into the written era. It's important to recognize in that freestyle era that everybody for that reason was a rapper, and had freestyle ability. Then you transition into the written era and you get people from slightly different backgrounds getting involved. You still have some industry rappers wanting to battle to promote, but at the same time you have people who've come up solely off of the hype of as a battle rapper. The analogy I'm going to draw is, I think, sort of to start with, battle rap was maybe a little bit like boxing, and it's like, yeah, so we know what's going to happen. These two guys are going to use their hands. Then it became a little bit more, I think, sort of with the written era, like, say, to take the analogy, like UFC, where it's, right, we do have rappers here, but we've also got writers and poets fighting each other as well, kind of thing, like just ultimate language, sort of mixed martial, whatever. And the reason I mentioned that is to the point you were saying. I think battle rap possibly could transition into something a little bit more like WWE in the future. And I'm not even I don't know what that would be. I'm not even the biggest wrestling fan. It's just kind of where I see it going in terms of these characters and people enjoying this kind of content in this age.
You've opened a door and I'm going to walk right through it. This is a question potentially that gets edited out, but fuck it, let's go in. Through that prism then, because battle rap for me, right, again, I can't fathom a world where battle rap couldn't be put into contemporary entertainment media spheres, because you've got it all. You've got the entertainment factor of comedy, you've got the theatricality of it, you've got, I think, what people like Lunacy and Shotty Horror originally fell in love with it to begin with about, which is the violence and the confrontation of it, the veracity of it almost. But then you've got all of these other elements at play, like when Shuffle-O come in and they bring their over-the-top theatrics, and then you've got O'Shea and his just unstoppable raw charisma. And then you've got a Bizzo who wants to bring it back to that more technical, grounded, almost realistic. Like he's a catch as catch can wrestler. He's he's a guy who's a no nonsense kind of guy who will then do a gimmick match every now and then because he's a good sport. So I guess what I'm asking is, through that prism, and battle rap, I would argue, having all of the raw ingredients to put it wherever it needs to be to succeed on a wider stage, what would the genre need to do in your mind to make it more contemporary, or to give your generation more of an identity rather than just being sort of an amalgamation of everything that's come before? How do you define?
Right.
How would you define it?
I think a big part of it goes back to what we were saying earlier about the characters and the believability. As I say, I think if I look at a lot of my peers, I don't want to name names or took down on anybody, but say roughly the pool of battlers that I'm talking about if I talk about the newer crop of battlers. And I think a lot of them are really good writers, but I just don't buy a lot of what they're saying. And a lot of it, like the wordplay is cool, but it's like, what's your point? What's your issue with this guy? Why are we here? Also, sometimes it can be a bit full on. I don't feel like there's, some people, it's like, you're 10 battles in and I already feel like I've seen everything from you. Like I know what your rounds sound like, and you don't not seem to try new things. And that's one thing that I think. You say, what does the genre need? Frankly, I think it's on us to step up and make ourselves more accessible. So we were talking about earlier about this gimmick and this sort of thing. My goal is always to impress the rapper's girlfriends in the room. Any rapper can make a rapper laugh. Any rapper can make a rapper say that's a good verse, because we're rappers, we know what we're looking at. But I want you to bring your girlfriend, obviously not in a Mr. Steal Your Girl kind of way, but just as an example of somebody who's been brought to this event. If I can make her laugh and enjoy it, then I'm doing my job.
This is the Jungle Boy analogy that I would give to people. AEW signed Jungle Boy precisely because 15 to 18-year-old girls specifically who are there with their dads or their boyfriends were like, wait, who's he? And you go, right, that's right. Now we've got that demographic. And then you got another demographic that goes after a different and it's like, right, now we've got something for everybody. Right. And now anyone can come to a battle rap event and have a good time.
That's it. So, and that's such a huge part of my thought process now when I go into battles. Like you asked, for example, where do my ideas come from? A big part of it is saying, right, what's going to be something that everybody in the room's going to be able to latch onto? So I watch a lot of battlers from this newer crop, and I think unless I've seen every film under the sun, that's already 30% of the material gone that I don't understand with the references. And it's sometimes tied to an opponent. A lot of the rest of it is other inside references, breaking down, you said this against this person, but now blah blah blah, or it's like behind the scenes, you said whatever. To me, it's like most of the people, for all I know, in the room might be seeing that person for the first time. So I need to rap about them as though I'm seeing them from the first time as well. That's why, say against Canal, the whole thing is like, right, you get Canal versus me. The obvious thing to do is for me to call him homeless and for him to call me a Tory cunt. I knew he was going to do his part, so I chose to do mine. Against Savant, like, I'm standing there, and that was my first battle on Premier, for example, and I thought, right, Premier's a bit more of a serious crowd compared to the more comedy-based battles I've done. But whatever. Do I come in with a certain approach, try to bring that? I figured, no. Like, the dude standing there, I can work with it. You know what I mean? I just made a whole first round about his appearance, because if that's your introduction to me, that needs to be your introduction to him as well. So making it accessible, basically. Cut out the references, cut out the in-jokes, cut out things that you wouldn't actually say or things that aren't relevant to your opponent. Actually present it, because there's so many good newcomer battles, but I couldn't show my granddad X newcomer versus Y newcomer. I could legitimately show my granddad probably like me versus Canal when he kind of get it, at least,
You're the Jimmy Iovine thought, basically, where it's, look, I don't make music to sell to me. I make music to sell to the people who have money in their pockets to buy the music. Because
Exactly.
it's all well and good me saying I love this. That's great. But I'm not planning on selling this to myself every week to make a viable business. And it's not even like you're saying, because I would agree with you to a large degree, but I would then be also on the side of people that would go, yes, but what about the identity of the genre of battle rap, the history and the sort of the heritage of it? You're not saying get rid of every single reference that there's ever made. You're not saying get rid of every single aspect of battle rap that gives it its identity, but you are asking the battlers to be more cognizant of who's buying the tickets to come here and who's then buying the Patreon, who's buying the subscription service, and then who's just checking out a 30-second short on YouTube or on TikTok or on Instagram, who we could get to share this with all of their friends, and they then go, hey, they're doing an event round the corner soon. Do you want to go? Like, it's at a club, we can get a drink while we're there and we'll hang out and all the rest of it. And then suddenly, like you said, that environment, man, that sold me on going to more events. So once you get them through the door and they're like, this is a really fun environment. Oh, I get it. I'm seeing a show. I'm not here to see two guys argue with each other necessarily. I'm here to see a show. Right. Now they get it, and now they're going to buy more tickets. I totally see where you're coming from there, 100%.
That's it. And it's like you say, it's not about eliminating every reference, because also a great part of battle rap is that it's almost like the internet, in that everything is hyperlinked to everything else, kind of thing. Like everything.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing quite like that rising murmur in an audience where someone catches it and goes, do you know what he just said? And everyone then comes on, and it rises and rises and rises to when you go, yeah, exactly, right? You all caught that now, right? That's one of those, that's something you don't see in a lot of other, in fact, I don't know if you see that in any other genre.
And so you can have those moments, I think, where like you say, so there's obviously, you're trying to present something, and because it's performance art, it's fast paced, sometimes it takes the audience a little while to catch on. Sometimes you have a reaction that can sort of ripple throughout an audience as they catch it. You can pick the low hanging fruit and get the cheap laugh from everybody. And there is a place as well for the lines for the core fans. Throw something in there. If there's a real issue you have with someone's resume, you don't think that actually, you think all the battlers they faced are overrated, and that's going to be a part of your angle or a crux to your argument, absolutely mention that. Just be aware that if you list off 5 or 6 battlers who you don't think he's beat or whatever, there's going to be at least 10, 15, maybe 20 people in the crowd who don't know a single one of them. You know what I mean? So don't make that your whole thing. And that's, so when I say, when I'm talking about what we can do to put the genre forward, I just think the mentality of a lot of my peers, and again, I can't speak for anybody in it, I don't want to be too high horsey or anything either, but I just get the impression that a lot of it's a bit too insular. And the accessibility is huge. And
dude, this is the thing. I get that I know that part of battle rap's fandom loves that insular, it's ECW-esque almost, in that they like being the small, somewhat crowd outside of the realm of popular entertainment. But at the same time, I long for a time where battlers like yourself can come in and make names for themselves that then translate into, like, look, it's not a secret. Shotty Horror, Lunacy, Shuffle, Harry Baker, Mark Griss, Blizzard. There's a whole host of names that transition into other things, but still have a passion and a love and a respect for where they came from in battle rap. And I wonder whether that insular nature gets in the way of the performers sometimes. It's great for the fans who have it as their secret little thing, right? And I don't begrudge someone that, but I do begrudge it when it starts getting in the way of the genre itself from being as popular as it could be, and the battlers who maybe have to gear themselves differently if they do start to think, right, maybe I don't want to battle in 10 years. Maybe I'd like to parlay this into, like you said, you mentioned poems or that you were a writer. Maybe you'd like to parlay your success into battle rap into something else. Because wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice to treat battle rap as a career rather than it's something that we do, but we only talk about with certain people? And I hate that. I hate the fact that battle rap fans often surprise me because I'll say who I'm talking to, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, didn't he battle Tony D?" And you go, "You're a battle rap fan? Kept that bloody quiet, didn't you? Oh yeah, I love battle rap." Well, why don't you ever tweet about it? Why don't you ever talk about it?
Yeah.
You know, I don't really talk about it with my friends. Like, well, why not? It's great. But part of that is, like you said, that insular nature where if you show someone a battle rap clip, you have to be selective almost in like, oh, there's only certain battlers who will get over with most audiences rather than just a battle rap audience. You're 100%. I couldn't agree with you more on that point. 100%.
Yeah. And you're right that battle rap in general, as you said earlier, is an acquired taste. But like you say, I think there are some people who just seem to translate better. And it's important to recognize as well, it comes down to what you're doing this for. Now, if you are somebody who wants to try to build something off the back of this, then yeah, I'd recommend being as accessible and sort of brand orientated as possible and all of that. Frankly, there are some people who just show up for a good time a few times a year. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that as well, as long as they're performing and you know they're not they're honoring the commitments they've made with the league and all of that. Do your thing. No one's gonna tell you you have to try to fucking push the dream with this thing. But yeah, I just think I'd like it if a few of the newer battlers were more willing to put it this way, right? Like, I call it playing the game. Like, so I don't really do much. I don't go back and forth over Twitter, like dissing before battles, anything like that. Like, I just think it's a little bit lame. Like, I'm not, yeah, I could call you a dickhead for one like, or I could spend the evening actually working on my bars and just beat you on the day. But before the lazy battle, I took a little pop at him just because he said he'd had like the best rounds he'd written or whatever. And I said, it was right after the Ghost battle, and I said something like, oh, I'm glad to see Lazy's rewritten the best round, or rethinking is the best rounds he's written after what I threw together in a couple days, or something like that, words to that effect. And he got back to me like, where was all this sass on Saturday? Because obviously I'd spoken to him at the event or whatever. And on the one hand, I respected it. Obviously, I took a pop at him, and it was cool for him to get back at me or whatever. But the other part of me was like, man, we have to get in front of a few hundred people next weekend and get them buy into the idea that we're having an argument, that I don't like you. So why have you just told people that we were chatting last Saturday, you know? And again, it's like, I can't have an issue with that because he's doing what he wants with battle rap. But from where I'm trying to do it, I'm like, come on, man, we can actually really try to build something if we just think a little bit more, you know? Not that it might have made any difference, but that's just how I think about it.
Here's the thing. This is an easy interview, ladies and gentlemen, because it's actually, no, it's annoying in some ways because I like disagreeing with my guests, gives us something to talk about, but it's easy in the sense that I completely agree. There's nothing more heartbreaking for a fan than to maybe see the embers of something and the genesis of an idea that then becomes a fantasy thought be quashed with reality. Just let me dream. Look, it's kayfabe, guys. We're selling. I know it's not a fight, but we're selling you on a reason to turn up and watch us argue with each other. Why would you kill the kayfabe of it by admitting that, or kind of shining a light on the fact that it's not actually as it's presented? Because that then means not only is there a lack of investment on the part of the person reading it, there's probably now a lack of investment from anyone reading anything else you post going forwards, because they understand you're looking at it the wrong way. We're trying to sell this. We're selling this, guys.
And in a way, it's funny because I didn't have any issue with it beforehand, and actually, when he tweeted that, it kind of pissed me off, and I started writing. So him not wanting to sell the fight almost made it a little bit more of a fight. And again, like I say, it's not a criticism of Lazy at all. And frankly, it was like one tiny tweet, just a weird. It just stuck in my mind as a good example of this sort of thing, where I just think, frankly, what we're doing,
There's a
battle raps
difference
in a
there.
weird place.
There's a
Go
difference
on.
there. Sorry, I'll jump in because this is how I see it. There's a difference between winning an exchange on Twitter, and let's all be honest, no one wins an exchange on Twitter. Twitter
Yeah.
wins exchanges on Twitter. And selling that, look, take that animosity and work it. Give people a reason to kind of jump on that train of thought to, I want to see what happens when these guys go at it, right? As opposed to what I see in that moment, which is someone attempting to just cut the legs off someone else for the sake of a momentary social media boost. And I'm sorry, that doesn't translate to ticket sales. It just doesn't.
That's it. And again, like I do really want to stress that it's not a dig at Lazy at all, because I also think that I think going forward, he said actually he wants to
He's
take
not
us a
going to
bit
be the
more
one. He's not
seriously.
going to be the only one that
He
does it, though.
hasn't
That's the thing.
he hasn't been
And it might not even be something that he's cognizant of.
yeah, and that's it. It's just like again, battle rap exists in a weird space where it is performance, but then we're all dapping each other up and all talk, and we all act like we hate each other when really we don't, or whatever. And I'm just kind of like, let's. What one thing I've learned this year is I've sort of identified people now that I have just a general more understanding of the community. I've identified who's willing to play the game and who isn't. Like if I've if I battle somebody, I know who's going to attack me being posh in the way where we can buy into it and we can get a story going behind it, and who's going to do it in a way where I think actually not that, by the way, you can say whatever you want in a battle, but if I think you're somebody who's actually not going to say anything that good or that inspiring, but it's just going to be a bit personal or whatever, then I'm probably not going to be interested in battling you. Going forward, I want to play the game a bit more with people, you know?
Well, yeah, you want to be able to. You want to be able to treat it as it is, which is ultimately look. It is still a contest because you're trying to win favor, but it's not. It's that thing where you're both. Okay, this is my rule. You can insult me however you want. You can make any joke you want. Just make it funny. If you come at me with,
Yeah.
"Oh, your name's Lorne, like the graph," ha ha ha, I'm going to destroy you because it's not funny. I'm so
Right.
if it was said by a 5-year-old and you're saying it as a fully grown adult, think about what that says about your current level of intelligence. But the point I'm making there is that I'm perfectly willing to admit that my name is ridiculous and therefore is open for ridicule. So I'll let you have it so long as you make it funny. And that would be the thing I would say about battle rappers is if you're going to go into a battle rap environment, right, you are acknowledging that this person is going to do whatever they can to try and win. Accept that and do the same, and you'll both have a great battle. Don't go into it with this weird notion that I hope he doesn't say this, because what would you do if you had that information on you? It's a weird balance because
Yeah.
there is a level of professionalism you're trying to extend to each other, but you're also thinking of the audience and the promoter, and it's a dance, man. So play the, like you said, play the game. It's a dance and it's a balancing act.
That is it. Although, as you were saying that, two things occurred to me. Firstly, that I'm chastising battlers for sort of pulling back the curtain whilst literally saying all of this in an interview. I realised that I probably, if I wanted to make this point, should have been in character. But anyway, again, this
We
is where
can
it
edit
gets
out the last 10, 15 minutes and let you just run into it.
last 10
As I was saying,
hour,
brother.
last hour and a half. But yeah, the other thing that occurred to me was in my head just a moment ago is that where I kind of see it a bit more about as being about characters, I personally am the guy saying don't bring things up. Like I think that battle rap, again, I understand that people are more than, they have every right to get as personal as they want, enter this sport and do exactly what you want to do with it in the same way that I have. But in my personal view, almost anything specific when you start talking about names, places, jobs, people, whatever, is just too much. Like there's no point, because again, you never need to be that specific just to get people sold on the idea of it and the character and to make it believable. You can do all of that without potentially putting people in jeopardy. Like I'd never mention any information in a battle. You gave the example of, thinking, oh, I hope he doesn't say this. I've never said anything, and I would never say anything in a battle that isn't already public knowledge from previous battles. I don't do any research on my opponents beyond that, because frankly, I haven't agreed to battle the person, I've agreed to battle the battler.
Exactly. I mean, there is a professional courtesy that's extended. Like in my line of work, it's something as simple as, hey, I said this, would you mind cutting it? You don't then go, oh, so he doesn't want me to release it, I better release it then. You go, no, fine, you've entrusted us. We're trying to, again, this is for you. This isn't for us in the middle of this conversation, it's for the audience. You would think that a battler and a promoter would probably get together beforehand and go, right, just remember, yeah, personal if you must, but just remember that an audience isn't, again, you're thinking about the perception. What is an audience going to want to buy a ticket to another event after you go after someone's kids, wife, job? It's uncomfortable, because who wants to feel uncomfortable? Who wants to feel awkward or intimidated? So I understand that it's right material for this, that, the other, and you go, yeah, but is your opponent ever going to see you again? Or is anyone else going to want to battle you? Is an audience going to want to pay to see you? If the answer to any of those things is no, why would you do it if you're a sane and reasonable person? It just doesn't make sense. So you would hope a person would naturally articulate that, but I understand that not everyone has that capacity. So there is maybe there's a temptation to make it explicit. Look, keep it about the battle. I understand what you're saying there. Yeah. There's something.
This is, and like as I say, there are no rules in battle rap, and I would never suggest that there's anything my opponents can't say. I know I'm a funny example because I had the thing with the censorship against Crow, but for the record, that didn't come from me. That came from the school wanting that censored. But that's a perfect example of why, just for me, it's like, that's just a little blemish on that battle, where actually he didn't say anything particularly, nothing specific about my school whatsoever, or nothing that was particularly relevant or incisive or whatever. He just mentioned the name. And to me, it's like, if all you're going to do is call me a private school boy, then just say private school. You don't have to actually tie it to where now people can go and like Google me and shit. It's just a bit weird. Like, I know that I've agreed to do this and we're stepping in the ring together, so I don't hold any resentment for it. But going forward, that's the sort of thing I'd mean, where I just say, like, I don't know, I have a bit better idea of the sort of blokes that I want to battle and the sort of blokes I'm less interested in battling, because I have a better idea of who kind of sees this sport in the same way I do, and who I think sees it in a way where we share this community, but we're looking to do different things here. And so, I'd rather not work with you, kind of thing.
Let's turn the conversation back to you for a second, because I am interested to know what, in your mind, you consider an aspiration within battle rap, because there's a couple of different avenues you can go down these days. It isn't just about the sanctity and the the reverence of a title these days. There are guys that make their names through legacy battles. There are guys that make their names through one-offs, through all sorts of different avenues of making a name for oneself in battle rap. So I guess what I want to ask is, what do you think, maybe not your ultimate goals and aspirations, because you're still early on in your career, but what are some of the aspirations or goals that you look at when you look at your current standing and the landscape as ideal goals, merits of accomplishment as you go through your career? Like, what are some of the things that you would say, man, it would be cool to do that, or wouldn't it be fucking insane if I did this?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, like you say, there's sort of different levels to it. Where in an immediate sense, I don't know exactly what my aspirations are, in that, say, I've just come off of 5 battles this year. I have no idea who a single one of my opponents is going to be next year. I could probably name 3 or 4 people I'd be interested in, but Lord knows if they'd be interested in battling me and all of that. But in a longer term sense, probably, I said there were all right, two things that I'd want to achieve just before I call it a day. Weird things. I'd like to have a battle hosted by Lush One. I just think he's really cool, man. He hosts some of my favorite battles in history. He's a legend in the scene, and I just love, he's iconic. He's another just little thing that brings you to the battle. The host has a personality. He drops his little rhymes. He dresses cool. He talks cool. Like that's a part of battle rap I enjoy. So yeah, I'd like to have a battle hosted by Lush, and battling on King of the Dot one day would be cool. Now that one's probably the end goal. I don't know. King of the Dot these days is seeming to be a bit more exclusive as well, only running bloody massive events. So I don't know how achievable that one will be. But when I first really dove into enjoying battle rap on YouTube as a fan, I was mostly enjoying King of the Dot content as opposed to UK battle rap content. And so yeah, that'd be an aspiration of mine in the future as well.
That's interesting. I mean, does the prospect of battling across the world appeal to you in a broader sense, or is it only King of the Dot that would entice? Like, is the idea of maybe transcending UK battle rap appealing to you?
Yeah, in an interesting way, actually. I'm just wondering whether I should say this because I was going to keep it a little secret.
I mean, you can decide. You can do the mental gymnastics. Why I put forward why I'm asking that question, because it seems to me
Sure.
like Premier Battles is giving, or at least giving the impression that next year we're going worldwide, baby. We're going to try and put our battlers in positions where they can get a bit of acclaim and a bit more of a focus. Because UK battle rap is still seen in its own little bubble, which is weird because you think, well, yeah, but football players in the UK aren't just, oh, well, they're UK football players. They're football.
Yeah, right.
They can put a ball in the net there, or they can do it anywhere in the world. It's fine.
For sure.
And I appreciate the fact that Premier Battles isn't exactly looking to take over the world, but they are looking at, right, how do we expand the brand? How do we get these guys into different positions where they can garner a following that isn't just predicated on whether or not they happen to live within 100 miles of Manchester? And you would be someone I imagine that they would hang their hat on because, again, you're young, you're dynamic, you've proven to be reliable, consistent, and you've got a certain something about you. You've got a certain charisma that I think would translate to different audiences. So the idea then of doing the miles, having to go to different places, get over new sets of nerves, new challenges, that might be hard for some battlers. Would you relish the opportunity to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the dream, really, in that you're right. In an ideal world, I suppose somehow, well, in an ideal world, Premier Battles gets 1 billion subscribers tomorrow and I get a title shot and all of that. But realistically, one day, possibly, I might leverage a battle rap sort of following into something more elsewhere. But aside from that, assuming that doesn't happen, and as I say, that is sort of the dream, then the way I see it, just as a hobby I've got in my 20s that people are willing to sort of watch me, willing to invest in me in for seemingly, then the coolest thing I could do is, yeah, you want to fly me out to Canada to do a rap battle? Fuck yeah, I'll do that. Like, that's just, you know what I mean? So absolutely that interests me. And that's why I said why I was up for the Loso battle as well, because hopefully that puts me a bit more on the map internationally. I know as a result of winning the season with Shark City here, I think all of us are owed an international battle next year, is how they're going to do that. There's a Sharks versus 5 internationals card next year. So that'll be another one. For me as well, actually, I'd be interested in battling in another language as well. Because as I say, it's just something. Language is the whole reason I got into this in the first place, and so why just do it in English? Like you say, if you can put a ball in the net, you can put a ball in the net. So,
oh, you can't expect me not to pull on that thread a little bit more. What do you mean when you say maybe another language?
No, so and this was the thing I said. I'm not sure if I want to. If so, I might hit you with a little. We'll chat this afterwards. But I speak a bit of German, basically. I'm not as fluent as I used to be. but just because I'm a little bit rusty. But this year I've been trying to get back into the habit of it. I was at a point of near enough fluency a couple of years ago. I lived out there for a little while. I had a German girlfriend, etc., etc. And the battle rap scene in Germany is bloody live. Like, they get 20k views on their tryouts, mate. They sell 1,000 tickets before they announce a battle. And again, it's just about, right, what can I bring to the table in terms of trying to grow this? I know that there's a massive fan base in Germany that hasn't really been tapped into, certainly not in recent years. And so it's a goal of mine, say, in 2 years' time, if I can really carry on, I'm working to improve, taking lessons and all of that continually. If I can reach a point of competence where I'd feel comfortable doing it, then absolutely that's something I want to do as well. Just see where the hell we can take this thing,
Okay. Final question, or of a serious nature, and then we'll start maybe winding down with maybe one or two silly questions, because I got to get them in.
Sure.
Let me, because you've mentioned inspiration is something that's either it's intermittent at best, or it's something that you will garner at moments in time that you'll then revisit.
Mm-hmm.
What about motivation? What about the energy to continue to write, but to continue to rehearse and to continue to perform? Because one of the things that I think is often not appreciated about battle rap particularly is that a lot of guys want to say that they could have written that line, or they could have performed this round, or they could have woulda shoulda, right? But then you go, right, but could you have done the 90 to 100 hours of prep time? Could you have traveled to the event and maintained composure for maybe up to 4 or 5 hours while you're waiting for your name to be called, right? That motivation is hard to come by, because not everyone has even the motivation to go to the gym on a Wednesday when they're supposed to start on a Monday. Like, literally, I'll talk to people and you go, why don't you just go today? No, I'll go on Monday because that's a clean start.
Right, yeah.
No. Go now. Why don't you have the motivation to go now? And there's a mental block. Why don't you have that mental block, I guess is why I'm asking. Or how do you overcome that mental block when you have those moments of going, oh man, I mean, I should, but I don't know. Like, how do you overcome that?
I think the fear of God, to be honest, is what's done it most times. Because, like I say, it's a bloody psychotic hobby. Once I've agreed, because I'd never, unless something really, really serious happened, I'd never put out of a battle. Like, say against Lazy, I really wasn't in a point of preparation where I felt happy with it. As it happened, I got all of my material out more or less clean. I had my first ever stumble in the third round, but I would have shown up if I didn't have any rounds, frankly, because I made the commitment and tickets and all of that kind of thing. So once I've locked something in, the way I see it is like, right, that's happening. Like, no matter what, Elliot, on this day in 3 weeks, 2 months time, whatever, there's going to be 150 people. You're going to look around and you're going to see them, and you're going to have to be better than another bloke standing in front of you, kind of thing. So it's just more like the fact of it, like, this has to be done, otherwise you're going to feel shit about it, basically. Like, no one likes losing a battle, no one wants to not do well. And then I guess another side of it is we don't get much out of it, as in, I'm not being, neither my time nor my money is being reimbursed, shall we say, which is fine because I have a passion for this. But when you're not being paid for it and you're not gaining as much as exposure as you might hope, considering all of the mental gymnastics and all of the hours of prep and all of that, then you need to ask yourself why you're doing it as well. And frankly, I think when I'm in that moment and I'm saying, right, I've got this battle in a month's time, ask myself why I'm doing it. It's right because I want to show off. I enjoy doing this. I think this is something I might be able to build something off. And at that point, it's anything less than 100% is a disappointment.
I'm glad you mentioned that last part, because up until that point, it was a lot of what if. Like, for me, the reward of battle rap, aside from a big fat paycheck, would be just the adulation of a crowd being in the palm of your hand for 15 minutes. Like that, most people go their entire, like most people have to wait until they're asked to be someone's best man to have 5 minutes with a crowd at the palm of their hand. And even then they sometimes fuck it up. True story, wedding up was once, the best man, all he did for 5 minutes was turn to the best, the groom and said, "Do you remember that time we did that thing?" Gah. And the rest of the crowd was just like, no, we weren't there. What happened? Could you tell us what happened? It was a fucking train wreck, brother. Like both of them were just cackling like little girls, like laughing at, "Oh yeah, I remember that time." And no word of a lie. Like my grandma, who's 90 by the way, she taps me on the shoulder and says, "Right, soon as his speech is done, could we get the hell out of here?" Like, yeah, do you know what? I'm right there with you. And I got her the fuck out of there because both of us only have so much time to live on this earth. And I take from her example and say, yeah, I have better things to do with my time than watch these two bro out in front of his new wife. It's not, it's not good. But the point is, like, that adulation...
Yeah, now you know how I feel watching Dojo versus Dub T. No, I'm joking. That was
my close personal friend reference. Do I have to stick up for him?
You have, sorry, I don't know what are you enemies with Dub T, or is that sarcastic? What's going on? That was just a joke, by the way. I'm actually quite a big fan of his. He's decent.
Dub T's fine, except for his wrestling opinions are the worst. He's just so objectively wrong about professional wrestling and Dragon Ball Z. I never met someone that's wrong on both of those things because,
fair enough.
Like, you know, it's very easy to have a bad opinion on one of them, but to be so wrong on both it's almost impressive, to be honest with you. In the same way that it's impressive that you've made so many good points in this interview, so many great points, and yet you're drinking a Prime.
Yeah. What's your issue with that?
So we have someone that's clearly never seen my back and forth with Bizzo Bond on this issue because my thoughts have been known quite publicly. Prime is what happens when the devil urinates through a caffeinated straw and it's collected and then harnessed and then shipped out to the world to much in the same way that Ivan Ooze's ooze was passed out to the children of parents who were then enslaved to do the bidding of the heinous monster in an attempt to take over the world. Logan Paul and KSI are much in that same vein, I feel. I feel like they are two evil beings sent from another dimension to enslave and ultimately utilize humanity as a workforce to build a terrifying 100-foot mechanized destroy bot that will take over the rest of the universe. Just a theory, though. It's not. I don't have any concrete evidence to that effect. I can understand. He has no idea what I just said. He has no idea what I just said, and he's going to try.
No, I do.
In real time.
I do. Do you know, genuinely, because a lot of my friends tell me similar things. I mean, not necessarily in regards to me drinking Prime or whatever, but I know a lot of people who aren't fans of Logan Paul. I thought KSI was maybe a little bit more popular, but personally, and I will say this isn't a hill that I'm willing to die on because I don't know. I don't know enough about either of them, but I kind of rate them in the sense that they're just kind of young guys who've entered whatever industries they want and have seemingly, made a success of it. They've just waltzed in and sold things off the strength of their character, much in the same way as I'm trying to do to UK Battle Rap. Who knows, get some Reeverse energy drinks out 2024. So I respect them just as sort of...
You could call it re-energize.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Or something like that. That'd be really easy to do. And you don't, it's not like you have to sell them for much. Like, I don't know, they're 10 pence to make and you can sell them for £5.
Do I,
fuck this battle rap lot, man. You go ahead. You take the, I hold no claim to the intellectual property of that name. You take it and run with it, yeah, man.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I've got that. I'm glad I've got that on recording, because I certainly will do so. As I say, I might have to reopen the vineyard, get the first energy wine.
Energized wine, like that would. Could you? I don't know if they ever sold speedballs like pre-made though. I feel like they made them in bars because there was some sort of indemnity to say, well, look, we'll make it for you, but just don't drink it because you'll die. And we drank them anyway because we were stupid. But like, You know what a speedball is, right? Or are you too young for that?
I'm afraid I've sort of been smiling to save your self-esteem, Lorne. I'm far too young for whatever it is you're describing.
Okay, 2 shots of vodka, 2 shots of Red Bull, and you neck it in one hit because, how else are you supposed to
Right.
get through how are
Oh,
you
wait,
supposed
two
to get
shots of
through
vodka,
pressure?
two shots of vodka, 2 shots of Red Bull.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
You
I'd
might,
never heard that called a
you might have
speedball.
a
That's a
fancy
fairly
name
standard
for it
drink.
now, but like when we was young, when I were your age, lad, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and they kicked us out one club, and we go into it next. We had to re-energize ourselves, but we still had to
Yeah.
stay drunk. So
Yeah, yeah. No, well, I tell you what, until recently, a vodka Red Bull has kind of been my go-to drink. No, I can understand it. Although I don't say that proudly, I must admit. Like, it's not a nice drink, but for a night out, it would be my go-to.
Well, let me ask you, okay? If you hadn't made the carnal sin of drinking a prime, oh, by the way, just to clarify, the reason I have a problem with prime, 3 words: Japanese suicide forest. If he hadn't have done that, I'd have been totally fine with him being an entrepreneur and a YouTuber. But I'm sorry, I draw the line at going, bro, look at this, bro. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
have a sense of self decency, and I'll buy your fucking energy drink. Until then, pound sand. But you can
Fair
draw.
enough, man.
There are people that say I'm not allowed to fucking eat meat, and I get why, but I like chicken and beef too much. I'm sorry, I'm not going to give up. I like protein just generally. It's great. I'm assuming you're a big protein fan.
Yeah, I am actually. Yeah, I most of what I cook for myself would be red meat. I mean, I'm not sure where we're going with it, but yeah, I actually cooked myself a wonderful pork chop with applesauce yesterday. If you're interested, friendly applesauce. Yeah, big red meat fan.
This is why I don't do this. This is why they hire people for this, because people wouldn't let interviews go off the rails this easily. Okay, silly
That's
question.
all right. We're on the rails.
Favorite Chael Sonnen moment of all time since you've admitted that you're a Chael Sonnen fan? Like, in and out of the ring, in a press conference, in a junket with Ariel, on her Ariel and the Wild. Like, what's your
Yeah.
Chael moment that you rewind over and over because you're like, oh man, that's great.
Damn. I think it's got to be. When he took the shoe off.
When he took the shoe off.
He took his shoe off in a press conference, and he was like, I don't know, was he better than Tito Ortiz? Was that who? And I don't think it was. Who was it before? Anyway, before one of his fights, he put his shoe on the table and was saying, why don't you ask these questions to my shoe? You'll get a better answer. And there's a very memeable point where he goes, Mr. Sonnen, shouting at his shoe. And that's probably my favorite Chael Sonnen moment.
That's pretty good. I think it doesn't hold up in terms of comedic value in the moment, but afterwards it just made me laugh my ass off. It was when he was on the Lebitard show, and he was arguing with him about a quote that he was trying to give him. Like, you said,
About the slap on the ass.
And then she'd make you a deep mirror, and he like argued that's not what I said for about 10 minutes. He gets the quote, and he goes, he's right. I missaid one of the words, and therefore it's a misquote. He got me on a technicality. 10 minutes going full well, the spirit of the sentence was 100% correct, and went, but that isn't what I said.
That's it, yeah. But that was it, because he was even firstly, yeah, he basically said exactly what it was on recording, but then it wasn't like he just denied the quote. He was attacking the guy's journalistic integrity and whatever. He had me believing he didn't say it until they played it literally right after.
But I do say in that interview, like his dad, so that Lebitard's dad's there, and he's like, he gets to ask like maybe a jokey question. He's like, well, first and foremost, Dad, Pops, can I call you Pops? You know, the fact that you've got such a scumbag of a son, like, just why are you attacking him? Like, he's 100% right, but he's got to maintain the gimmick of, no, that's not what I said. I would never say something like that. That's not what I said. And yeah, he got him on a technicality. Fabulous.
Yeah, no, he really is up there. I think he can be a source of inspiration as a battle rapper as well. I reckon, one thing I like to think about is who would be a good battle rapper. Now, obviously, the people who are good battle rappers are the people who battle rap. But who, if you actually train them up, I reckon Chael Sonnen could have been catching bodies all throughout the 2000s if he had to. Nah, for real. He's charismatic. He rhymes. I bet his breath control's all right. He's fit. Obviously, I reckon Shakespeare would have had some bars. Mate, Shakespeare versus Kojay would have been a classic. I was born in the wrong time. But I do genuinely like to think, I think Hemingway would have been a killer battle rapper. That man was savage, he was blunt.
Malcolm X would have been an insane battle rapper. He was fucking vicious. Only guy I've ever seen in human history where it's like, oh, by the way, he memorized the dictionary because he wanted to understand every single word in a debate so he could deconstruct people's arguments. Like, from an analytical perspective, it's impossible to argue with someone who goes, by the way, that word doesn't mean what you think it means. What?
Mm-hmm.
Undermines you at that level? Oh, that would be difficult to contend with.
He's one of the greatest orators of all time. Just from that perspective, like before I did battle rap, public speaking was it's where my background was in performance. Only sort of performance I'd done previously, and Malcolm X is one of the greatest public speakers of all time. Definitely. I mean, this is weird, just sort of two guys talking about they got, Malcolm X being a battle rapper on a podcast. But I do like to entertain these kinds of thoughts, epic rap battles of history kind of thing in my head. But who would have actually had the bars? You know what I mean?
Epic rap battles of history is what gives me, by the way, the belief that battle rap could be as big as it wants to be. Because when you see something like that, which its core concept is battle rap, but it's scripted, it's predetermined, it's highly produced because they do all that janky shit to film it and all the rest of it. And look at how many views it gets. That Thesaurus promoted it. That the CGI battle rap of all the basketball players recently. I don't know if you caught that. That did 10 million views in the first week, and then went on to do 30 million views.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, but there's views out there for battle rap. I mean, it's a shame that a lot of it is a very diluted version that, frankly, I think doesn't bring anything to our culture. I know, for example, when like James Corden has a little battle rap kind of thing.
God.
They brought in. I heard they brought Disaster and Daylight and all these guys in apparently to consult as writers, and just didn't listen to them at all, didn't credit them or anything. But those things get crazy views. Like we're in a stage, like you say, where back in the day there might not have been much competition for battle rap, if you know what I mean, because it was sort of a novel idea. Whereas we've had a period of frankly oversaturated battle rap content throughout the late 2000s and early teens, and now we're at a point where almost everybody understands what a rap battle is and will absolutely get behind it and watch it like they will any other piece of content. It's just I don't necessarily think that the audience that we're tapping into is exactly the right audience. It's a wonderful audience, and it's a brilliant core audience. Like I say, I just think it can be a bit bigger with a few minor tweaks. It can be quite a lot bigger with a few minor tweaks.
Final jokey question, and then we'll do the promo stuff. Would you like to be on Sounds Like? If Shuffle and the guys said, "Hey, do you want to be on Sounds Like?" Does that game show interest you at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
I love Sounds Like. I don't know how many episodes you've seen. I adore Sounds Like as a concept. It's fucking fabulous.
I've seen. I think I might have seen all of them. I've certainly seen most of them. I'm a big fan of the show as well. I've seen it live a couple times. And obviously, being the armchair pundit, like sitting back watching it, I get all of it and whatever. But I wonder whether I would freeze up in the moment, because I know, just as a battler, nothing's ever as easy as it looks. But I'd absolutely want to do it.
You as a battler, like, you must be at home saying, "I know that, I got that, this is what I do." But then, like you say, you're on stage and then it's suddenly, "Oh shit, I have to get this now." Like, that would be fun, wouldn't it? Like, this idea of, right, I'm here, let's...
Yeah.
What does it sound like?
I'd love the challenge. I'd be up for it. I really would. And actually, I spoke to Bagnall. I met him. Well, I've met him a couple of times now, but actually chatted to him for the first time properly. I think after the Liverpool event, and I was saying, if ever you have a cancellation, I'm your man. I'm gonna be at all the events as a fan, kind of thing. Put me on your short list because I'll absolutely be ready. I think, which sounds like I'm in a weird, because sounds like it's blowing up, man. They did really successful at the Fringe, and hopefully, I know maybe there's potential TV stuff on the horizon. Who knows? But basically, that's the sort of thing where I want to try to grow my profile enough to get on Sounds Like before it becomes an unattainable feat. When they have top comics on every week.
That would be something, wouldn't it? But this is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying battlers should be getting into battle rap to the ultimate goal of getting out of it into something else. But I am saying, wouldn't it be great if battle rap, in the same way professional wrestling had for a period of time, guys that would go into the movies, but then they'd come back and they'd bring all that movie fandom with them. Like, right, okay, I'll give this wrestling another shot. Or just fans are so excited to see them back with now a new sheen on them, where it's like,
yeah,
this guy is now a legitimate movie star. In your guy's case, this guy's been on TV, he's been on radio, he's made his music or whatever it is. He's done a book or whatever, and now he's back. And now I get to sort of enjoy him all over again with him coming back with, so I've been away for a while, and he's got now hopefully something new to say, something new to
for
talk
sure.
about.
Yeah, a little window outside of the echo chamber. Absolutely. And again, to the previous point about what we can do to kind of push this genre, in many ways, I think the most valuable thing I could do for battle rap next year is probably not battle, as in, suppose that I did devote a year just to, I'd say I did, I don't know, stand-up comedy. I started releasing some poetry, freestyle verses, whatever, trying to get some TikTok fame, whatever, something like that. The best thing I could possibly do for battle rap is spend a year building an audience that I can then bring to events, and then
You need to build
hopefully
your
they then
brand.
become
You as a
battle
performer,
rap fans.
people buy tickets to see you, and then because then you add value to the promotions, not the other way around. And that's the balance that you're trying to tip now. You're trying to tip it. Premier Battles are giving me an opportunity. Don't Flop are giving me an opportunity wherever, right? You go and you go, right, you're going to pay me because I'm going to give you more than what you're going to pay. Like, I'm giving you something that will then lead to you generating more money your next event when I'm not there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And as I say, for the record, I don't think I'm at that stage yet. I think Premier Battles and Don't Flop are still very much doing me a favor by platforming me. Just when you look at the audiences that they reach versus the audience that I could reach independently. But hopefully in the future, yeah, you're right, that I'll be able to cultivate some sort of an audience of my own that will then tip the scales of that tip the scales of that sort of dynamic. And that's sort of where I say, really, yeah, the best thing that I'd want to see young battlers do, frankly, they're all good enough at battling already, sort of, in that they know how to do it. Like, they know how to do punchlines, know how to do jokes, know how to rhyme, know how to flow, know how to do everything. Now, cool, step outside of the echo chamber for 6 months, think about what you're actually selling, maybe try to gain some other sort of fans as well that you can bring back with you, but just come back at it, as I say, accessibility, growth, that's just sort of at the front of my mind always with battle rap.
He's made the dismount, he's done the triple twist and a quarter turn. Let's see if he can land the ever so difficult dismount. That's been the majority of the interview. But where can people find you? I know you don't have anything to promote right this second, but let's just say for the argument that 2023 is an hors d'oeuvre to what is coming in 2024 and beyond. Where can people find you and where can people support you if they are so inclined to do so?
Sure. The main social media that I use is Twitter. That's where I post any flyers, any announcements, any battles, anything like that. Basically, that's where to find me. Elliot Reeverse on Twitter. And Aside from that, I am on Instagram and I am on TikTok under the same name, although I must admit, I don't think I've literally ever posted on either of them. I've made those accounts so I've got the handles, and I think next year we're going to get the ball rolling on that. But I didn't want someone to steal the name, you know? Anyway, so get at me at Twitter, but more importantly, check out Drag TV, check out Trubs, check out Premier Battles, check out Don't Flop Entertainment, check out No Loose Chat, check out whoever else I might or may not be forgetting. Check out anything to do with battle rap.